Order of the day number 5.
Arms, military-style semi-automatic firearms and import controls amendment bill, first reading.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Simon Power.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Police, I move that the Arms Military-Style Semi-Automatic Firearms and Import Controls Amendment Bill be now read a first time. Mr. Speaker, at the appropriate time, I intend to move that the Arms Military-Style Semi-Automatic Firearms and Import Controls Amendment Bill be referred to the Law and Order Committee for consideration, that the committee report finally to the House on or before 4 August 2011, and that the committee have the authority to meet at any time while the House is sitting, except during oral questions, and during any evening on a day on which there has been a sitting of the House, and on a Friday in a week in which there has been a sitting of the House despite Standing Orders 187 and 191B and C. Mr. Speaker, this bill amends the Arms Act 1983 to place controls on the importation of air guns that look like real pistols, MSSAs or restricted weapons, and it clarifies the definition of military-style semi-automatic firearms, or MSSAs, as I'm sure Mr. Speaker is familiar. The bill will preserve the rights of legitimate firearm users while at the same time protecting the public from the illegal use of firearms. The bill will enhance public safety by clarifying and strengthening import controls on air guns that look like real pistols, restricted weapons or MSSAs. Because of their appearances, such air guns are used by criminals for intimidation purposes. Although no official statistics on this are collected, police estimate that there is up to one incident a week where a member of the public has presented an air gun that looks like a real pistol, restricted weapon or an MSSA, prompting an armed police response. The bill will require those who import air guns that can be mistaken for real pistols, restricted weapons or MSSAs to have a permit from police. A permit will only be granted if the Commissioner of Police is satisfied that there are special reasons why the air gun should be imported. Permits will be issued to allow for the legitimate importation of air guns for sporting and collection purposes and the like. These measures will reduce the availability of these types of air guns for criminal purposes, and it is anticipated that within a relatively short period of time, most of the cheaper imitations already in New Zealand will be lost, broken or discarded. The bill's restrictions on the importation of air guns will not apply to air guns that are clearly designed to be used for airsoft and paintball sports and could not be mistaken for real pistols, MSSAs or restricted weapons. It's also intended that these provisions would not restrict the importation of air guns that are clearly manufactured solely as toys. These tend not to look anything like real pistols, MSSAs or restricted weapons. The bill includes a consequential amendment to eliminate the unnecessary regulation of fully automatic air guns used for soft air and paintball sports. Fully automatic air guns used for these sports are currently declared restricted weapons in the Arms, Restricted Weapons and Specially Dangerous Air Guns Order 1984, though I'm sure the Honourable Clayton Cosgrove was aware of that. However, this does not accurately reflect their lower power and reduced ability to cause harm. The bill removes the classification of these as restricted weapons to reflect their lower risk, but they would still be subject to the proposed import controls on air guns that look like real pistols, MSSAs or restricted weapons. The bill will also clarify the definition of military-style semi-automatic firearms. In 2010, the High Court decision in Lincoln and Police highlighted problems with how the Arms Act 1983 defines MSSAs. The current definition has resulted in confusion and created difficulties for police who need to be able to determine in a consistent manner which semi-automatic firearms are MSSAs. This amended definition in the bill will clarify the definition and bring the situation back to a classification regime very similar to that administered between 1992 and 2008, which was generally understood and accepted by the firearms community. This will greatly assist with the enforcement of provisions relating to MSSAs, including the obligations on those who possess them. The new definition, first of all, defines an MSSA in the positive as a semi-automatic firearm that has one or more of specified features rather than, as is the case now, in the negative, with a list of features that a firearm in sporting configuration, that is not a MSSA, must be without. A very confusing way of approaching the situation, you'd agree, Mr Speaker. The phrase sporting configuration is rendered redundant and will be repealed. Secondly, the new definition of an MSSA in the bill provides for the use of regulations to designate a firearm or type of firearm as an MSSA and to define or describe features of a semi-automatic firearm that would classify it as an MSSA. The designation of specific types of firearms as MSSAs and regulations would only be used in rare instances where firearms or firearm makers are unable to be clearly classified under the new definition, and the classification is in line with the policy intent of the Arms Act as amended in 1992. This is very confusing, Mr Speaker, and I suspect those that have a specialist knowledge in this area will be following it more closely than those of us who are not as well informed on such complex descriptions and matters as that contained in the Minister's speech. The definition of an MSSA in the bill also addresses a situation that has arisen over magazine capacity. For a firearm to remain classified as being in sporting configuration and therefore not an MSSA, it must have a magazine that is not capable of holding more than 7 rounds, although I suspect, Mr Speaker, that you're aware of that, and that does not appear capable of holding more than 7 rounds, bracket, unless it is designed to hold a 22-inch cartridge or less, close bracket. Many firearm owners possess magazines designed to hold 10 rounds, but in order to maintain a firearm in sporting configuration, either the manufacturer or the firearm owner have internally modified these magazines so that they can only hold 7 rounds. The bill ensures that firearm owners and manufacturers who take this action will not be found to be operating outside of the law. This will be done by retaining the current limit of 7 rounds that the magazine of a semi-automatic firearm can hold before it is classified as a MSSA, but allow a limit of 10 rounds in relation to what the magazine appears to be capable of holding. This is not getting any less complex, Mr Speaker. The bill provides for a right of appeal to the district court when a firearms owner who is affected by a determination by police that a firearm is an MSSA wishes to challenge that decision. I think it was probably more straightforward rewriting our entire criminal procedure. Mr Speaker, the Arms Military-Style Semi-Automatic Firearms and Import Controls Amendment Bill improves the ability of the Arms Act 1983 to continue to protect the rights of legitimate firearms users while at the same time protecting the public from the illegal use of firearms. Clarifying the definition of MSSAs is in the interests of gun owners as it removes uncertainties around the types of weapons that have additional requirements for their possession. At the same time, it improves the ability of police to apply controls on the possession of MSSAs. I am confident, Mr Speaker, that restricting air guns that can be mistaken for real pistols, restricted weapons or MSSAs will improve public safety and limit their availability for criminal use. Mr Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
The question is that the motion